So it's very interesting. I don't know how many of you have practiced meditation in the past with any level of seriousness, or even like maybe tried for a month or so. None of you. Excellent. That is such a great position to be in. A beginner's mind, you don't have preconceptions, and you'll have an amazing time in this retreat, right? So it's harder when people have been struggling with meditation for a while, and they have to unlearn certain things they've been doing and learn something. And the practice that we'll be doing is something that will take you very deep, very quickly, and it's best if you approach it with a completely open mind. And it's quite. And how many of you would have predicted maybe a year back that you would be joining a 9-day meditation retreat?
Not at all.
Great. So I think life takes us to unexpected places, and if you allow it, this practice will has the power to completely transform the way you experience life, right? So you have to give it the chance. So I remember when I was a kid, I went to this amusement park called SL World outside of Bombay, right? And they had this massive slide with at different levels called a Slippery Sultan. So I got on top. I was very excited, but just when I was about to start, I just slipped before I was ready for it. And then the entire way down, I kept holding onto the rails, and I had no palms left by the end of it. By the time I got down, it's like a hot summer day in Bombay, right? And that I don't want you to do that, right? So when enjoy the ride and don't worry too much about gripping and getting a handle of things, understanding everything very clearly. Just allow it to get out of your own way, right? Don't get in your own way. We all do that. You will do that. I'm quite sure of it. But whenever you remember, get out of your own way and just allow the process to take you forward, right? So like gravity took me forward, and any resistance was just not useful for me, right? So that's the kind of approach I want you to have. We'll have a lot of fun because in this practice, so one, there will be a lot of interesting things that will happen in the practice. There are a lot of changes that will happen in your practice. Every day you will find new things happening, and one of the things that I need you to do is especially start at the end of every day. You will share a report with me, right? So it's essentially you're kind of logging your practice, and that helps me understand what's happening and what is the thing that will help you make the maximum progress going forward. And I'll give you very personalized inputs into that, right? So it will be fun, it will be tailored to your needs on a daily basis. If you have any questions, any confusions, you can ask in that form. You can ask at any other point also, right? So don't be apprehensive about that. So you'll hear a lot of new things. When I did this practice for the first time, I had no experience of meditation. I was lucky like you. I had a beginner's mind, and just out of a series of interesting things that happened, somebody said, if you at all you're interested in meditation, check out this monk called Bhante Vimalaramsi. So that's my teacher who passed away a few months back, but I think he has left an indelible mark on the world, and something influences what I'm trying to share. So I signed up for that retreat and completely forgot about it. Right? You've been probably getting regular reminders from Nidal, who's been very nice to take the initiative over there. But I completely forgot about it, and suddenly the I got an email that your retreat starts today, right? And I had absolutely planned no time for it. At that time, I was running a startup, so my time was anyway extremely hectic. But I started it, and over the next few days, I found like remarkable changes happening in my life, right? And to the extent that I continued the practice even after the retreat, went deep into it, and over time I started teaching it as well, right? Because I was convinced, I once those changes happened, I was convinced that there is something here which I should have been, exposed to as a default part of my education, as a default part of growing up. Like, why don't we learn anything about how to deal with our minds, how to deal with states of mind, how to deal with emotion, right? So we are always taught how to deal with the external world, how to drive a car, how to do math, how to run a software program. So that's something we've been trained in. But when it comes to managing our mind and emotional state, it's pretty much like figure it out for yourself, right? So there's not, or you get like very high level social wisdom, right? Or you get very truisms that okay, be honest and don't do stuff to hurt people, and that's okay, that's great, but that does not cover the entirety of my human experience, right? So the thing that I did well, and which I would like you to do again, is not to kind of grip onto that slide, but to just allow yourself to go with the process. The second thing I'll ask you permission to push you through the process, because I will have a good sense of where you are and whether sitting longer is going to really help you unlock something in your mind. So when I say something, it's not a default key, add 15 minutes more to your practice. It's because I expect something interesting to happen when I say that, right? So that cooperation, I mean, for the you have I know your time is valuable, but since you have already signed up for this, I would want you to get the best out of the time that you're investing, right? And you want to get really interesting experiences, right? And one thing I can guarantee you is, one, you will have learned a lot of things about your mind that you haven't known till date, and not just through my words, but through your own experience. You'll see it happening in my mind. Which brings me to the next part, that is the way the retreat is structured. So there are essentially three components to it. So think of your mind like a territory, right? There are different things happening in different parts of your mind. This Your mind is an incredible thing, right? So you know how to operate a computer, you know how to operate a car, you know how to speak different languages, you know how to have a Zoom call, you have each have your own professions or areas of interest where you're doing a lot of different things. You speak multiple languages. Some of you may be artists, some of you may be musicians. There's so many things that the mind can do, and it's a very, very complex, very beautiful, very incredible territory there. The thing is, we often, when we kind of get taken away by the what's at the surface level of the territory, right? So that's kind of guiding our experience of life at all points of time. And it becomes very interesting when you start going deeper into that, right? So we want to understand the territory of the mind, understand how different experiences are happening, and understand how our mind creates certain pleasant or unpleasant experiences for us, right? So that's what we want to do. So one part will be, I'll be talking about the territory as if, so I'll be talking about different things to expect in the territory. So as an analogy, say you were going to a new city, right? So I would tell you about what are the landmarks to look for, how to get from one place to another. So those are things that are kind of theoretical that I'll be sharing with you. Then you will be exploring the territory on your own, right? So you will go deep into that territory through your practice. You'll be observing what's happening in your mind, and we'll get to that in more detail. You'll be seeing that, and all the things that we discuss in when we discuss that map of the territory. Like, the map is not the territory. Map tells you what it may look like, what it may feel like, but what it actually looks like, actually feels like, that is apparent to you only when you explore the territory, right? So the second part will be the practice that you do. So the first part is the talks that we'll share with you, and some of the talks will be live. We'll share the schedule with you. And the second part is you actually exploring the territory and seeing it for yourself, experiencing it for yourself, armed with this new information. And the third component is the one-to-one guidance, right? So once you've explored the territory and you say that this is what I saw, this is what I experienced, I'll say, maybe you can, shorten your travel time by taking the metro, or, use have lunch at this place, right? So just taking that analogy forward. So I'll help you to navigate that territory better in the next day. So that's the three main components that we'll have. Okay. The other thing that we'll do is also just to get you, just because our schedules already don't accommodate for the things that we're going to do over the coming week. So we'll have group meditation sessions starting from Saturday, right? So that will start in the morning, and it'll just kind of help you to get into the flow of things, right? You can plan other sessions and when you want to watch the talks, etc., based on your convenience. This is something that I recommend. It helps to get into the flow. If you have any time constraints, if you have any, some people have uh, already some commitments early in the morning. So if that's the case, don't worry. Okay, cool. So that was like a brief of what the retreat is going to look like. And like I just want to reconfirm that whether I have the permission to push you, right? So if I request you, you're not going to do it. You're going to let other things take priority. If you give me the permission to push you, I'll push you through this week so that you have a really good experience. Okay, so are we on board with that? Okay, that is awesome. Great. So let me quickly just give a background, right? So I talked a little bit about happiness. I talked a little bit about understanding internal states, right? So what is meditation and how does it help, right? So think of meditation as a session when you're building certain skills. So just like you go to a gym and work out certain muscles, you're doing certain exercises and you have better skill, better ability with those muscle groups or with those kind of movements, right? So meditation is essentially a session where you're sitting and increasing certain skills. Okay, and why do we do this, right? So let's go back to the original teacher, the OG teacher of the kind of meditation that we're going to do, which is the Buddha, right? And the Buddha didn't say, okay, I want to increase my focus, I want to reduce my blood pressure, I want to sleep like 30 minutes more at night, right? So these are the kind of reasons that a lot of people talk about when they talk about meditation. Okay, my BP is come down by 2 points, my blood sugar has come down by 3 points, and so on. So that's like saying that a smartphone is a very good paperweight, right? So it's only a very, very small fraction of what it represents. So what the Buddha was actually looking for is like, so if you think about it, we just talked about how incredible our minds are, right? So each of us is capable of such incredibly complex tasks. And not just tasks that we can solve by ourselves, tasks that we can do through cooperation with other people also. And if you think about it, like all of us fundamentally, right, at the base of it, we are seeking happiness in our lives, right? So here you have incredibly smart people who are getting more and more information that can help them become smarter. And they have one clear goal, which is happiness, right? And it seems almost natural that your life curve should be that you start as a happy child and over time you learn to get better and better at being happy and till the point that you can't control that happiness and you're like exploding in a you're walking out of life in an explosion of happiness, right? If that's not your life, then it's worth asking a question, right? What is all this intelligence for? What is this ability to do so many things for if I can't get this basic thing in place? Right, and that's not what the Buddha said, but essentially he said, why is there dissatisfaction in life? Why do I experience unpleasantness? Why do humans always like without fail, I mean it's not like all the time, but without fail there are lots of moments of dissatisfaction and unpleasantness in life. So the Buddha said, okay, this is what I'm going to get after. I'm going to get to the root of this. He didn't say that I'm going to suppress negative emotions or just think positive or anything. So like, let's really get to the base of it. And he had a very, very scientific way of going about it, right? And it's called phenomenology, right? So you look at what is actually happening and you see how things are happening and then get to the root of it. And you'll find a lot of, as we go forward, you'll find that the book, when we discuss things, we'll talk about how Buddha classified certain things or how he did a root cause analysis, right? So that's the kind of the way he went. And the crux of what he taught was noble truth, right? So the Buddha said there is dissatisfaction and there is a cause for this dissatisfaction. So that's what he really figured out. The cause for this dissatisfaction said is something called craving. Okay. And this is not simply just a craving that, okay, I have a craving for ice cream or I have a craving for something else right now. It's a very, very specific mechanism that changes the way that we deal with a particular situation. So I won't go into too much detail right now, but he essentially found out what is the underlying mechanism in the mind that causes dissatisfaction to come up in our lives. And the third thing he realized, he stated, the third noble truth is that if you can manage this, if you can be alert to this and you can let go of this underlying mechanism, then you will not have dissatisfaction in your life. So he says that if A is dependent on B and you remove B, then you don't have A. So if suffering is or dissatisfaction is rooted in craving and you can manage your craving, then you will be able to manage your dissatisfaction. And finally, he said it's great as theory, right? So A depends on B and so on. But is there a way to actually get there? right? So the fourth noble truth he said is there is a way to get there, and that is called the noble eightfold path. So he gave a path which over the next few days slowly we'll be learning about that path as well, right? So that's the fundamental thing, right? So when we're talking about meditation, we are actually learning, taking a deep look into how our mind creates joy or dissatisfaction in our lives, no matter what the situation. And we all know, right? In the same situation, right? Some days we'll be joyful and some days we'll be unhappy, right? So somebody cracks a joke. One day you feel like laughing at it, and it's a silly joke. Let's say it's a silly joke. And the other day you're like, this just what I needed now, another silly joke on top of it. One day you're feeling on top of the world and you're stuck in traffic and nothing matters, right? So somebody is honking, you're stuck in a jam, and you're just elated. And another day you're miserable, right? You can't stop, looking at your watch and getting irritated and wondering when you'll get to wherever you're going to, right? So what we are actually looking is to understand the mechanisms of the mind, and this includes how we give meaning to things, how we interpret the world, and how does that lead to certain states of happiness or unhappiness in us, right? So that's essentially what we are going to do, like going to really get to the root of how the mind works, right? So your mind is creating, I mean, your entire experience of the world is generated in your mind, and the state of your mind essentially colors how you interact with the world, how you experience it, how you feel about it, right? So this is, like I said, this is like the most fundamental education which I feel that was never ever presented. I stumbled into it, and somehow things have happened in your life that you have stumbled into this. And the reason I'm here, right, the reason I'm spending my time doing this is, so once I went through the practice, I was amazed at the change that had happened in my life. So two things happened. I was very curious, why did this happen, right? So I mean, what really happened, why did it happen, and how do I understand this? So I actually spent a lot of time studying one, different spiritual practices from the ancient world, to like a lot of scientific things, from evolutionary biology to neuroscience to developmental psychology, trying to understand how all these pieces fit together till I was convinced, so I wanted to poke holes in it from every point. I didn't want to just simply believe that this will work and this just worked, right? So it did work, and I was also able to see why it made sense. And the second thing was, I saw a lot of people doing this practice consistently get those changes, right? So some people had like immediately life transforming changes. Others were kind of had great momentum on that, right? So for some people, the changes will be different from person to person, but irrespective of what the change is, it gives you a set of invaluable tools to continue on that with that momentum for the rest of your life. And I saw this happen for a lot of people. Then, when my teacher trained me to actually start guiding people, understanding what's happening, not just in my mind, but in other people's mind, and to help them make progress, I saw that the technique is so good, so refined, and so effective that even somebody, I mean, I was not a monk who spent like 20 years in different forest traditions and all, with like my teacher did. I just kind of got it ready made, but the technique was so good that everybody that I taught also had those kind of experiences in life. And I'm assuming that somebody in known to you would have had those kind of experiences, because we are not inviting people through Facebook ads or anything, right? You probably got a recommendation from someone you know, right? So I have seen that it has that effect on people. Again, the impact will depend on how much you allow yourself to really benefit from this practice. Okay, great. So I'll take a pause here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick guided meditation. Okay. And whatever we discuss, so the videos that in the live sessions, we'll share the videos of the live sessions. If I talk about a practice, you will also get a handout where the practice is detailed, right? So don't worry too much if you miss something. You can ask questions also. And even if you miss something, you'll have the videos or some textual material for reference, right? So, yeah, so just go, don't doubt yourself, just kind of allow yourself to have fun with it. Okay. So I'll pause there. I'll just quickly hydrate also. I'll wait for some questions from you and then we'll do a quick guided meditation. Any questions?
Good to go.
No? Good to go? Excellent.
Yeah.
Right. Mansi, are you still on? Yeah, just wanted to check. Okay, great. So posture is very simple, right? The first thing is posture. Very the simple two things. It should be an attentive posture. It should be a comfortable posture, right? What is attentive? If you're going to slouch, if you're going to lie down, like really like sink into a extremely soft plush sofa, you're going to fall asleep, like guaranteed, right? So attentive posture, something you have your back straight. You don't have to be. You're not going for a parade or anything. Just keep your back straight so that you're attentive, okay, and comfortable. I don't want physical discomfort to come in the way, right? So comfortable means you can sit on a chair, you can sit on the floor, whatever works for you. If you're comfortable sitting on the floor, it's great, but just see that we'll be sitting for reasonable durations of time. That might be feel a little different. So find out what's your comfortable posture, and part of what we'll do tomorrow is just kind of try out these things, get the lay of the land, right? Another part of the posture, little smile, right? So again, enough that you know that your mind is smiling, right? So it doesn't need to be a grin or anything. So that is the second part of the posture. And during the practice, you have to sit absolutely still. Okay. So you might end up slouching or something or moving a little bit to the side or something. Then you straighten yourself slowly. So that's okay. But if you feel an itch, something happens, I'll tell you how to deal with it. Okay. So you don't try not to move. It's very important not to move. And I'll explain this over the coming days why it makes a difference, right? So just at a high level, what I'll say is like, so when you're sitting in a chair for a while, right? So when you sit down on the chair, you get a lot of information of how you're sitting, how the chair is feeling, etc. After you're sitting for a little while, you forget about it, right? So the same thing happens when we want to go deep in the territory of the mind. As we continue to sit still, the mind stops worrying about what's happening in the body, right? It gets a sense that, okay, we're in a secure, safe environment. So we don't need to continuously see what's up with our body and so on, right? So that allows the mind to go deeper and deeper into the mental territory, understand what the little gears that are turning in the mind, right? So we need to sit still for that. Like I said, this is a smiling meditation, and we also have a very interesting object of meditation. So, largely, when we talk about meditation, we hear people looking, paying attention to their breath, and that is the most common object of meditation. We'll be using a different object of meditation. This is called loving kindness or metta, and we'll start with how to generate it. So I'll slowly, like what you need to do over 30-minute period of time. So we'll do like a couple of little sessions and you'll get a sense of what you need to do. Okay. So the first thing, we'll generate our object of meditation. So object of meditation, now we want to understand the mind. We want to understand how the mind works. So what we start with is we place our attention at one place. This is called the object of meditation. This is like a anchor for your practice, right? And every time it wanders away, we gently and skillfully bring it back. Are you able to hear me? I think there is some internet
Yes, yes.
problem at the moment. Okay, great. So, okay. So we have an object of meditation. We keep our attention there, and every time our mind wanders away, we'll bring it back. So right now, in the guided meditation, we'll figure out how to bring up the object of meditation. Next, we'll talk about how to bring it back. Okay. So comfortable position. Close your eyes. Okay. We want like to reduce the amount of noise going in, right? Close your eyes, and we talked about things that make us smile, right? So go back to a memory or a thing that is really on the top of your list of things that make you smile. Okay. So something that really, really makes you smile, playing with a small child, a small animal, time spent with family, friends, you know, time doing something that you really, really enjoy. Sometime you were very joyful when you created something. So go back to a time in your life when essentially you had no complaint with life, right? So you had no friction with life, with reality. You were really happy just being, right? So bring up some memory that helps you bring up that feeling of just being simply happy. Go back to a time that brings up that feeling of happiness. Okay? So as you bring up that memory, you will get a warm feeling, right? That's related to that time. And place that feeling in your chest and wish that happiness for yourself. May I be happy. May I be calm. May I be full of joy. That happiness that you felt in the past, you're wishing that same happiness for yourself. And use these phrases gently in your mind. Use whatever phrases connect with you. Don't chant it like a mantra. Just use it to reinforce the feeling of happiness. May I be happy. May I be full of joy. May I be at ease. May I have peace. May I be full of life. May I be radiant. May I be happy. May I be full of joy. May I be at ease. May I be happy. May I be full of joy. May I be at ease. May I be full of life. May I be radiant. Now, as you do this, your mind will wander to some or the other thought. Recognize that your attention has wandered to some thought, some noise, some itch, some anything. Let it be. Remind yourself that you're using this time to train your mind to be happy. You'll find that there is a little bit of tightness that develops in your mind every time your attention wanders away. Let go of this tightness. Bring that smile up again and come back to your object of meditation. Send that feeling to yourself. May I be happy? May I be calm? May I be full of joy? May I be at peace? May I be at ease? Again, your mind will wander off. Recognize that your mind has wandered off. Let whatever thought has come be. Relax any tightness that you feel in your mind and body. Smile and come back. May I be happy. May I be at ease. May I be full of joy. Now slowly open your eyes. How'd that feel?
It's calm.
Okay, great. So when you sit, remind yourself you're giving yourself permission to be happy for 30 minutes, right? So this is not, you don't have to break any mountains. You're going to have fun and you're going to learn a lot about your mind. So I'm going to just I talked about object of meditation. I talked about bringing your mind back. So couple of things to remember, and you'll find this in the instructions also. So the memory that you use, that is to bring up the feeling, and the phrases that you use in your mind, that is to support the feeling. So the feeling is the central part. The object of meditation is sending that feeling to yourself. Okay, and your so if that feeling goes away, or you can't feel that warmth, that good feeling. So did anyone struggle to bring up that happy feeling? Okay, cool. That is excellent. Even if you do, it's not a problem, right? So we have ways to address that as well. So that sending that feeling is important. If that feeling dries out, you can bring up the memory again. You can use 2 or 3 memories. Okay, so that is also perfectly fine. Now, when our mind wanders up, right, a lot of things can happen. So first thing, like a lot of people will find is extreme sensitivity to sounds, right? So somebody honks in the street, somebody closes the door, and you're like, why? Why? And like my dog started barking. I don't know if you could hear during the practice. That's fine. So what we want to do is, as soon as our attention wanders away, right, we want to be able to bring it back gently and skillfully. We don't have to fight with it. We don't have to, violently get it back. So we just simply understand. We recognize that our attention is caught up with something, with sound, its uh, thought, something you need to do tomorrow, something that happened earlier that day, something that happened yesterday, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, you recognize that your mind has wandered there. You let it be, don't engage with it further. So recognize, release, relax. Every time your mind wanders to something, right? So it will grip onto it, like this remote that I'm gripping, right? So you'll find that. Right now, you may not be very sensitive to it, but it's the same thing if you're trying to get somebody's attention for a long time and they're not responding, right? And you're very impatient. Or that example of being stuck in traffic and you need to get somewhere, you have a big important thing and you need to get there in time. Maybe you have a flight to catch, right? And there is maybe one person in front who's driving extremely slowly, and you have this tightness, like when will this change? So that's an extreme example. But whenever our attention goes onto something, you almost have a physical sensation of this gripping, right? So your mind grips around something. You'll find, even for example, if you get into an argument, you'll find a contrast between when you're in the heat of that argument to when you have finally, kind of cooled down. You'll find that difference in tightness in your mind. This is extremely important. This is a symptom of craving that the Buddha talked about. Right? So that this is like the core mechanism that underlies dissatisfaction. It's a tangible correlate of that. It is something you can experience in your physicality, right? So you relax that tightness. So first recognize that your mind has wandered away. Let it be. You understand. When I say release, you're simply understanding that I'm not sitting here to think about this or engage in this thought process right now. I'm sitting here to meditate. So kind of come back to your agenda. So, for example, if you're doing something, some important work at home, and an uninvited guest comes in, right? So you don't have to get irritated. You don't have to fight with them. You don't have to make them shoo them away. Nor do you have to engage with them, right? So you can say, okay, come in. I'll give you a cup of tea, and I'll get back to work because that's what I'm currently engaged in, right? So same way, you recognize that your mind has wandered away. You let it be. You don't need to go chasing after it. You don't need to go fighting with it, or you don't need to get irritated that it has happened. It has come up, right? That is the reality. Let it be. Relax this tension and tightness in your mind. So the first couple of days, you'll start getting familiar with this little bit of tightness that develops in your mind. So another way to kind of understand how that tightness happens is if you have to use the facilities, right? And for a long time, you'll find that your mind is gripped with that tightness. And when you're finally relieving yourself, you'll find that tightness with it. So those are some of the symptoms, and you'll find that every time your mind gets distracted, the same thing is happening. So what you'll do is you'll relax the tightness, then smile. So you start bring your mind to a wholesome state, start bringing it back to the home base, right? Smile and return. Come back to sending that wish to yourself. So your object of meditation is sending that wish. But that's not all that we're going to do right now. So what we'll do is when we sit for 10 minutes, we'll send this wish to ourselves. And for the next 20 minutes, we'll send this wish to a friend. So there is a reason for this. So one of the things about craving is it's always about me, right? So I like something, I don't like something, I want something. So when you're sitting in traffic, it's like I don't like the fact that I'm stuck in traffic. I don't like the fact that this person in front of me is driving slowly. So it puts this craving mechanism makes everything about you and pits you against the rest of the world, right? I'm not going to be happy until the rest of the world cooperates with me. So I remember recently at an airport there was a Hamleys, right? And outside that Hamleys there was this scene of a father literally dragging on the floor. His little son was making a tantrum that the only thing that matters in life right now is I get this toy, right? So our mind, the more craving that we have, our mind says I'll only be happy if this one thing happens, right? So somebody slammed the door while you were meditating, I'll only be happy if this did not happen, and you can't do anything about the fact that it's already happened, right? So your mind gets into that mode, right? I'll only be happy if this person in front of me gets out of the way or drives faster. So that's what craving is. And to kind of get out of that, to be able to see your mind outside of that very me kind of story, you need to start looking externally, right? Not be obsessed with the self, right? So one of the things that we do is we start, because we are selfish beings, we start with ourselves, wishing ourselves happiness. But what we'll do after 10 minutes is we'll choose a friend and we'll send that wish to a friend, right? So every time our mind starts getting, so it's not just about sounds and itches, right? So your mind will be worried about, I need to do that, I need to get this done, what will happen, worry about the future, what will happen to some relationship that I have, what will happen to my career, what will happen to financial security, to my health, to my family side. So it's always like your mind is always stuck in those things. And the more personally you take it, the more your mind says, how can I ignore this? Because I want it, right? So it's we become like that kid at families. So the next 20 minutes of your practice. So each sitting has to be 30 minutes because I really want you to have great experiences, and you'll find that it's not so challenging, right? This technique is such that you and the it's whether it is the object of meditation, whether it is how we come back when our mind gets distracted. So the technique is designed in such a way that you'll be able to do this, but you have to trust and you have to go with that flow. Okay, so the next 20 minutes, what we'll do is I'll give you all a minute to take a friend. Okay, so when I say friend, somebody that naturally you have when you think of them, a smile comes to your mind. You know that they wish you well, you know that you wish them well, right? So you have that understanding. And just choose someone who's healthy, they're not unwell, because your mind might get distracted in other stories. Choose somebody who's not a part of the family, because with family, there are always like complex layers of the relationship. And choose somebody that you don't have any physical attraction to, right? So if you're going to spend 20 minutes, there is no saying where your mind will go, right? If you choose some friend that you're somewhat attracted to. So just take like 30 seconds, a minute, choose one friend, and we'll work with this one friend, right? So we don't, we'll get to more people, more friends as we progress, right? But initially, we'll start with exactly one friend. So I'll just give you 30 seconds to a minute to choose a friend that you'll use as a object of meditation. Can just raise your hand if you have selected your friend. Okay, cool. Excellent. I'll give you 20 seconds to reconsider whether they really deserve your good wishes. If you're completely convinced, okay, fantastic. So 10 minutes, we send that wish to ourselves, and the next 20 minutes, we'll send the wish to our friend. Okay, may you be happy, may you be at peace, whatever. Use the phrases that connect with you, right? So you're wishing someone from your heart, very genuinely, very earnestly, wishing them well, and you're wishing yourself, right? So this is what we are going to use as an object of meditation. So what you can do is you bring up a image of that person. You think of that person. You should know that you are, sending that wish to that person. You can think of placing them in your heart or your chest, right? Or you can think about sending that wish to that friend with to an image of them. Whatever works, right? So each person has a different, some people are very visual, some people struggle with visualization. So what is important is that you're sending that wish of goodwill, right, of well-being to your friend. That is what is important, and that is your object of meditation, not your friend, but that sending that wish to your friend, right? And every time your mind wanders away, we use the 6 hours. So I say 6 hours, but we've talked about 5 hours. So recognize, release, relax any tightness in your mind, re-smile, and return to your object of meditation. The sixth hour is very important because it says repeat. It's an understanding that your mind will wander again and again. Okay, so it's not like you heard something and you brought the 6 hours and now we're sorted for the rest of life, right? Your mind, in 1 second, it can go back to the same thing, or it may stay with your object and after 10 minutes it goes, whatever happens, right? So, repeat reminds us that every time our attention wanders away, we need to do this cycle of bringing our attention back, right? So that's the 6 hours: recognize, release, relax, re-smile, return, and repeat. And it's impossible to remember at this point, but you'll get there. So if you know how to drive a car or you know how to ride a bike, in the beginning it seems impossible. So many parts, how do you get the order right and all? Just practice it a few times, and it will get more and more natural. So when you start, initially you go step by step, and over time you'll find that it happens in one motion. So as you learn to drive, changing the gear is like a one smooth motion, right? So the same thing will happen with you. Don't worry if you get it wrong, it's okay. You are learning, you are bound to make mistakes, right? So it's part of the process of learning. And even when your mind gets distracted, don't get annoyed with it. That is the nature of your mind. it will go all over the place, right? So you're using that as an opportunity to practice the 6 hours, practice, deepen your understanding of what's happening. So what we'll do over the next few days is actually get into what is happening during that time that your mind gets distracted, the process by which you're bringing it back. So it's all helping you deepen your understanding. The other thing I wanted to mention is don't use the 6 hours if you're still connected with your object, right? So things might come in the background. You might hear some song start in the background, or you may have some thought come up. Use the 6 hours when your mind gets totally distracted. Okay. So you've completely forgotten that you sat for meditation and just either sending that wish to yourself or sending that wish to your friend. That is when you use the 6 hours. So small things come up in your mind. It's okay. You stay with your object, they will disappear automatically. Okay. Even if they don't, that's fine. It's only when your mind wanders away that you use the 6 hours. So let's do a quick run of sending this wish to our spiritual friend, and then I'll just talk about one last part and we'll wrap up for the day. Okay. So we start in the beginning, we send the wish to ourselves, and then we'll send that wish to our friend. We in your practice, you'll sit for 10 minutes with yourself. That timeline is approximate, right? So it's 8 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, doesn't matter so much. Approximately 10 minutes for yourself and the rest of the time for your friend. Okay, but right now we'll do a much compressed version. Okay, great. So let's close our eyes again. Just settle in to your seat or on the floor. Bring a little smile on your face. Bring up a memory of something that makes you really happy, really joyful, with no complaints in the world. Something that happened in the past, something that you really enjoy. Use that warm feeling of happiness and wish it for yourself. Place it in your chest and wish it for yourself. May I be happy. May I be calm. May I be at ease. May I be full of joy. As your mind wanders away, recognize that your mind is caught up with something. Release it. Let it be. Relax any tightness in your mind and body. Smile and come back. May I be happy. May I be calm. May I be at peace. May I be happy. May I be calm. May I be at peace. May I be full of joy. Now that your belly is a little full, share this happy feeling with your friend. May you be happy. May you be full of joy. May you be at ease. May you be full of life, radiant. May you be happy. May you be at peace, at ease. May you be full of joy. Again, your mind might wander. Recognize that your attention is caught up in something. Let it be. Relax any tightness. Smile and come back. May you be happy. May you be full of joy. May you be at peace. May you be happy. May you be full of joy. May you be at peace. May you be at ease. May you be happy. Slowly open your eyes. Hmm. How does it feel?
Peaceful.
Okay, great. How about you, Somya?
Right. Connection got distracted in the beginning, but it's calm.
Right. How about you, Abhishek?
And a lot of voice distraction in between.
Yeah. So that's perfectly fine. Okay. So see, our job is not to clear our mind or make it shut it down, right? So we want to be able to thrive and be happy in the middle of chaos, right? In the middle of our lives are not. It's not. I mean, the next step is not to go off in the Himalayas and away from civilization, right? You have to be able to thrive and be happy in the middle of all the chaos. So these things will keep happening. There are always a million things that are competing for your attention. Understanding how your attention goes from one thing to another and being able to keep it in a wholesome way. So you already kind of get a sense of that's what we're doing, right? We're learning to observe how attention moves away, where it is, right? Most of the time we don't realize that, we need to think about it and how to bring it back, right? So those are the skills that we are going to be looking at, right? And great. So tomorrow I want you to, we'll share a guided meditation, right? So 30-minute guided meditation. You can start with that, but over time I would want you to maybe for a day, right? So tomorrow is test drive, right? Figure out if the place that you thought is fine, if that works for you. Remember to put your phone on silent. You'll probably forget it the first time, right? And if you want, you can use a alarm for say 35 minutes so that you know that till the alarm goes off. So I need you to sit for at least 30 minutes in a sitting, and don't worry, right? So no matter what happens, you feel an itch, you feel some discomfort, whatever it is, some sound. Remember that it is just your attention caught up in that story. You can just bring it back. Just use the 6 hours every time your mind gets completely distracted, right? And you'll find it easy to do it. I mean, obviously, it won't be straightforward, but it will be definitely possible. Right? It is within your ability, right? So you know, just push yourself a little bit. Like, let's give it a shot. Okay, don't need to get obsessed over it, like or get very worried that I have to do it. You have to do it with ease, right? You have to do it with fun. So just say, let's try using the 6 hours a couple of times and see if it works. The other thing that you need to do, so I need two sittings of 30 minutes each every day, right? So start figuring out your time with, your commitments around you. One of the biggest challenge that you'll find is managing your time, right? So you should just plan your time ahead. It's a lot easier. Other people may have dependencies on you, right? So just make sure that you clear out the time that you need to. And also, it's good to practice at a time that is not right before something important, right? So if you have 35 minutes before a very important call and you decide to sit then your mind is going to be completely impossible to work with. It's a learning of its own, but I would not advise it at the beginning stage, right? So that's something you should plan out. You should figure out where you can sit, what times you can sit, what you need to communicate to other people. Also find a spot where you can walk. So 20, 30 feet or so. So either it's on a balcony or a roof or like a park or something around your house where you can walk. So for 15 minutes, what you'll do is you will walk at a steady pace, normal pace. Keep your gaze at the ground, say 8, 10 feet ahead of you, so that you're not looking at things and getting distracted. And you'll do the same thing. As you're walking, you'll send that wish to your friend. Every time your mind gets distracted, you'll bring your attention back using the 6 hours, right? So this will be a struggle in the beginning, but again, like I said, so we want to be able to use the skills that we build in our mind in any environment, right? So walking meditation starts to allow you to bring the skills that you build in your meditation into any situation in life, right? So being able to have a handle on your attention, have a handle on your state of mind and what's actually happening in your mind. So this is the other thing. Every day, at least one walking meditation of 15 minutes, right? And you can either start with yourself and send to your friend, or you can If you have done a sitting meditation before, you can simply send that wish to your friend, right? Through the day, keep the wish going whenever you're not. So, walking meditation, this is one formal walking meditation, but you can do it at any point of time. So, if you're taking a cab ride or a metro ride, you have nothing else to do, you can use that time to do this active meditation. If you're, making the bed or folding clothes or, making food, that's something that doesn't need too much, complex mental activity. It's a great opportunity again to practice your active meditation. This is going to be the big game changer over a longer period of time, right? So we are not creating a routine where for 30 minutes you feel good and the rest of the life is miserable and your BP is 2 points better, right? So that's not the objective. We want to be able to bring an awesome experience of life into every moment. So we need to build the skills for that. So whenever you get the opportunity, keep that smile going, keep sending that wish to your friend. If you're with other people, you can send it to them. The more you do it, the more interesting things you'll get to see over the next few days. So whenever you remember, so again, obviously you won't remember all the time and it won't be possible all the time. But whenever you remember, take advantage of this opportunity. Great. So I'll take a breather again. Let me know if you have any questions.
Is it okay to feel a little overwhelmed when you're meditating, while you're meditating?
Overwhelmed in what way? Did you feel some joy come up
Um,
or some emotional overwhelm that was happening? It's
Emotionally,
perfectly natural, right? So if you have tears coming up, let them flow. It's perfectly fine, right? So a lot of people, it happens, So we are always, like I said, we live in a very transactional world. So we always keep thinking in terms of transaction. Just simply taking the time to wish ourselves and a dear person well is going to, unlock a lot of things that are not part of your daily experience of life. So if you feel overwhelmed, it's fine. If you feel like crying, that's great. You may feel a great surge of joy also. That's also perfectly fine. Just allow things to happen as they are. Keep your attention with yourself or with your friend, right? So anytime it wanders away, just bring it gently back. That is the most important thing. So any emotion comes up, any joy comes up, don't sit and analyze that. You use a memory to bring up the happy feeling. Don't start getting caught in stories about that incident, right? So that can also happen. Your attention needs to be with sending that feeling to yourself or to your friend. The other important thing, I think it's mentioned in the prep kit, but what will really, really help is reducing digital noise and social noise, like things that don't need to be done urgently over the next few days. Like try to keep away from that. Try to, it's okay to be completely occupied and busy, right? So, but if something is optional, you can push it for later. Just use that time. Try not to introduce too much noise, right? So if you have to go to a party, just because you've been okay, they have invited you so nicely, and then this going to spend a couple of hours having small talk. It's just going to create more noise in your mind for now. So for this retreat, we want to get deeper, and the more the noise is there, the harder it will be for us to get deeper. And your smartphone is the uh, biggest obstacle to this. Right? So if you can uninstall things that you spend a lot of time on it, otherwise just put a timer. So there's some apps, well-being apps that help you identify how much time you're spending on that. Just put a keep a limit to it if you can, right? So you'll find a great difference if you're able to do this. Great, that's it from me today. So we'll send a bunch of videos tomorrow to help you out. We'll also send the PDF with the instruction. Just give me a moment. Okay, great. So we'll just pause with that. If you have any questions, we'll create a WhatsApp group also. We'll share my number. I'll also be on the group. So feel free to send any questions, any doubts that you have, right? And yeah, do ask questions. It is helpful to you. It is helpful to other people also, because if I find that it's a question that will help everyone, I'll share it with everyone. And remember, so this is like a video game or like learning to walk, right? So you are going to fail. I mean, your objective is not to prevent your mind from wandering. Your objective is to understand how this process happens and to gain deep insights into this, right? So you can't always go through life keeping your mind constrained. What you can do is create a very high level of awareness of what's happening with your mind and how to deal with it, right? So the good setting is every time you recognize that your mind has wandered away, you use the 6 hours and bring it back. You don't go chasing after that thought. Ki, I'm sitting now in silence. Nobody else is disturbing me. So now let me obsess over this thought, right? So you don't do that. Nor do you get irritated with yourself. Oh my, I'm no good at this. My mind has wandered away, right? So neither of those things are good strategies. Every time you recognize it, you just simply bring it back. Whether it happens 5 times in a sitting or 5,000 times, it doesn't matter. Your a good sitting is simply that when you recognize, you follow through with the rest of the steps. Let it be. Relax any tightness in your mind, smile, and come back to your object. Repeat as many times as needed. Okay. Sounds simple? Great. Have fun. Again, like a video game, like anything in school that we learn, right? If you have a good approach of curiosity and an approach of having fun with your mind, you learn a lot, right? So if you take it as a task or if you force yourself to do it, it's your mind is going to rebel a lot. So think of it as a game. Think of it as a you know something that you're doing to have fun and to also learn something about your mind, right? And that attitude will really help you. Awesome. So we'll send the supporting information and tomorrow's set of videos, and Sunday we'll have the next live connect. Okay.